Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of Phone Wallet Keys, David Ortiz. My idiot brother, Samson, is still not in this country, so we can't do a podcast again this week. But he's having a really great time, I want to assure everybody. And he also set up this great thing that we're going to play you this week, which is two sisters talking about their politics and why they don't watch sports anymore. They're really smart. It's a real treat. I can't wait to play this episode for you. But before we do, I just want to debrief with everybody about what happened on Sunday and talk about the Patriots loss really quick, because I feel responsible to my Boston sports audience. And I feel like just bringing you a podcast that's about Boston sports that doesn't actually talk about what I would consider one of the worst losses I can ever remember would be irresponsible. So I feel like one thing about this Patriots loss is that there is plenty to second guess, which I hate, right? Like, I hate giving the people on EEI the opportunity to call in and be like, well, I think Belichick should have done this, because it doesn't matter what you think. And we have the best coach in football, but it sure didn't look like it on Sunday, because there is mistakes were made, if you'll forgive me the passive voice. But also just sort of the nature of this kind of last second loss where you have no time to mentally prepare for a loss. I feel like even in the sort of really bad Super Bowl losses, it was like, what the fuck is going on here for the entire game? I knew something was wrong. And just to have it happen on a last second miracle play like that, where you have literally no time to mentally prepare for something like that, I just don't have any memory of Hail Mary type plays succeeding against the Patriots, which is probably why they didn't do a traditional Hail Mary. But anyway, I don't want to dwell too long on this. I just want to acknowledge that it happened with everybody. Say that it sucked. Say, I'm sorry you had your victory ripped away from you like that. I think the implications for the Patriots are bad. I don't think this is I don't want to sugarcoat this, right? I don't want to put too fine a point on it, but losing the number one seed and having to go to Denver in 2015 cost us that Super Bowl, which sucks. It sucks that happened. Also, speaking of that, Gostkowski in that game against Denver that we lost, which would have sent us to the Super Bowl, missed an extra point. And him missing that extra point against Miami in the first is you can't really overstate how much that came back to haunt us. And if him missing that extra point costs us home field advantage, which indeed costs us another Super Bowl, as we are chained in capitalism for another 40 years, I'm going to get even with Steven Gostkowski. Let me just put it that way. There will be vengeance extracted if it goes down like that. But it could not, I don't want to the sky isn't falling. We still have an excellent opportunity. We just have to take care of business. And who knows, maybe Kansas City will lose to the Seahawks and the Chargers, and we'll still get the number one seed. It's possible. One other nice thing about Sam not being in the country is that since he's left, the Celtics and the Bruins have gone on long winning streaks. It's the combined cumulative total of the Celtics-Bruins win streak in Sam's absence is 9, which I'm down with, and I want to acknowledge that. So I don't think we should allow my brother back in the country until the Celtics and Bruins lose. I would like you to send us tweets and Instagram messages to that effect. And with any luck, my brother and I will be able to resume talking with each other rather than bringing you other people's siblings talking to each other in the immediate future. I think it's nice. It's a nice idea that there is fraternal and I guess sorority. I don't know what the word is, the adjective for sisters like that. Sisterly banter coming your way. I think you're in for a real treat, and please stay tuned. Phone Wall Keys, David Ortiz.
Okay, here's it's me, Sam. Thank you, Max, for chiming in with some of your opinions. Other of your opinions I will not thank you for. You deserve no thanks. Thank you, though, to the listeners of Phone Wallet Keys, David Ortiz. As my brother said, I'm still away. We're unable to record the podcast right now, but we have a very special treat coming up. Laura Brown-Lavoie and her sister Tess Brown-Lavoie recorded a conversation that sort of traces the lineage of their sports fandom up until the present moment where they're sort of ambivalent. And on the one hand, it's a little bit crazy to hand over the reins of this podcast to two people who admittedly are not big sports fans at the moment. But on the other hand, I think their conversation and their story is very relevant to the Phone Wallet Keys David Ortiz project. And I also just think they're so fun to listen to and so smart. Their perspective on sports is really fascinating. I loved this conversation, and it is a great honor to be able to present it to you now. Hopefully, I will be let back into the country, and Max and I can resume next week. But until then, please enjoy this conversation from Laura and Tess. But first, baby, I'm an anarchist.
Cross me up! Don't snap, don't breathe, just to leave me on this skin. And baby, begin!
Okay, I guess we should just start with this picture.
Yeah, definitely. So, I'm Tess,
I'm Laura.
and we're sisters.
We grew up outside of Boston.
And we are just looking right now at this picture of our Uncle Mike, who is really the person who brought the Celtics and the Red Sox and the Bruins into our life. This is just a photograph from our apartment that we grew up in Whiskey Point. And I'm wearing Uncle Mike's Bruins hat that he gave to me that day, along with my teddy bear, Marshmallow. And yeah, it's just, we have this picture to inspire us to have a little conversation
About sports.
about sports.
We're going to dedicate this one to Uncle Mike.
We dedicate so many things to him all the time.
Yeah, because he loved us so much. And
And loved Boston sports so much.
yep. Yeah.
So yeah.
And I also want to simultaneously call on our grandmother, his mother, Mary. And when we were planning for this conversation, our dad was in the room, and he told a story about how Mikey and the other brothers, they had 4 brothers, or 5 boys altogether. And
one sister who shall not be erased
who shall
in the telling of the tale.
Yeah, but probably wasn't present for this particular tale, which was that when the boys were watching the Red Sox, Mary, our grandmother, who was a huge Red Sox fan, would come into the room, and if it was an exciting key moment in the Red Sox game, Mikey would banish her. He would say, "Ma, get out of the room, you're ice."
You're ice, Ma.
And that was,
Fucked up.
yeah, she was the scapegoat of...
But like also so relatable. Like I spent entire series sitting on the floor, like in the fireplace in our apartment that didn't work, clutching Chester the bunny, this like wooden rabbit,
Statuette.
craning my neck to see the TV that we were watching the game on, because
Pure superstition.
yeah, just like, you know, one thing happens when you're like near the fireplace, and before you know it, you're just like for weeks on end sitting in that fireplace watching the Red Sox.
Because that was the year that they reversed the curse. But maybe we'll come back to superstition.
And definitely, yeah, we're gonna have to come back to like that time in our lives because full disclosure, like our relationship with Boston sports has changed.
Yeah. Maybe we should tell the listeners about our relationship to sports in the present day.
Right. So
you should go first.
So yeah, I'm a huge Celtics fan these days, but really don't touch the other teams so much. The Red Sox won, I guess all the people listening probably know that the Red Sox won the World Series this year, but that was not a part of my life really.
We live in Rhode Island now, but that's no excuse.
It's no excuse, but yeah, I don't know, something happened for me where I just felt like so much emotional energy was going towards these sports teams and like frankly these male athletes, and it just felt like kind of a fucked up dimension of my life, corroborating other ways in which I invest in
the greatness of men.
The greatness of men, and yeah, I had to divest for a while.
So how'd you get back into basketball?
Honestly, it's so embarrassing. I started watching 4 years ago or something. I started watching Steph Curry, I've got to say. And honestly, it felt more like watching dance than it felt like watching sports. And then, I mean, just holding up this Uncle Mike picture again, I was, slowly getting back into basketball. And I bleed green. So here we are. Kyrie led my fantasy basketball team last year to a bronze medal. This year I'm first in the standings of my fantasy league.
Wow.
And Gordon Hayward is contributing some crucial stats. Yeah, so I'm a basketball fan.
I have to intercede that I'm slightly older than Tess, and all of her successes create a kind of obscene swell of pride in me. So I'm really glad to hear your number one.
Huge. It's huge. I'm also the only woman playing fantasy in this league. So this is like the glass ceiling. It's a bit of a glass ceiling moment.
We're gonna talk more about fantasies later, too. But I think there's you left out one kind of key part of your return to sports, which is the WNBA.
Right, so Rhode Island, not so many teams playing here except for, the universities and colleges, which sometimes can
and
be...
the minor leagues.
And the minor leagues. But yeah, Connecticut has a really exciting WNBA team, and I know this is a leftist sports podcast, and I think we need to dig in a little bit to some other dimensions of sport in our lifetime, which is particularly women's sports as a portal to pretty interesting experiences of different bodies exhibiting strength and also queer dynamics on display. Laura's birthday is in February, and we used to always go to see the Harvard hockey team play.
Women's hockey,
which
were probably my first celebrity crushes.
Right.
And then they got the gold.
Yeah, a bunch of players from this is Throwback, which I guess is maybe the title of this episode of the podcast. Throwback with a couple of weirdos. Yeah, so I think the year 2000 maybe was the first year that women's hockey was in the Olympics, and the U.S. team was made up of a ton of players from the Harvard team, local to Boston, like Cami Granato. Do you remember any other players?
Yeah, AJ Mlezko.
Oh my god, I can't believe we're just pulling college hockey players' names, but I can't believe it.
They were so hot.
So hot. We would wait after and get their autographs. They're like, I'm 19, but word.
Yep.
And yeah, so that's that's part of it. But anyway, huge WNBA fan. Love my fantasy NBA basketball. Okay, here's something that's fucked up. Can we talk about how there's no fantasy WNBA league?
Even though the WNBA is the fantasy.
So you just have to sort of, you know, have your own framework for understanding what that means. Whereas if you're an NBA fan, you get to really play and invest and, you know, be a manager or whatever kind of bullshit lie you want to tell yourself. But anyway, the Connecticut team, super young team. They kind of remind me of the Sixers a little bit, like young team, young stars, really exciting. Last year, I thought they were going to just really take it all the way, but the structure of WNBA playoffs is really weird, so it ends up being these like, what do you call it, sudden death games, and they got beat by Phoenix Mercury, led by Diana Taurasi and Brittany Griner, these vets who are just like good in high pressure situations. And yeah, huge bummer, but WNBA is where I go to watch some of the hottest people in the world play basketball.
She's taken me. I was pretty distracted by the context of Mohican Sun.
Right, it's insane there.
But once within the confines of the gymnasium, it was thrilling. I guess I should answer the question in brief,
right.
In much more brief, which is that I don't watch sports at all anymore. But I do still dwell in the like deep onion layer of myself in the teenager who I was that could not miss a Red Sox game.
Yeah, word.
And Tess and I mean, we were there every day for every single Red Sox game the year that they reversed the curse. And we were eating reverse the curse ice cream.
Brigham's. Shout out.
And we were doing our calculus homework, and we were importantly ignoring the cataclysmic dissolution of our parents' marriage, which I credit the Red Sox with my like deep, cloudy denial of that.
Wow,
event.
I wonder if that's why I stopped watching.
I've thought about that a lot.
You have?
Yeah,
wow, this is
definitely.
new information for me.
I mean, the concrete reason I stopped watching was that I moved out and went to college.
No
and
TV.
Didn't have a TV, and also like
Other things
had
to do.
other things to do, like, you know, smoke weed and study Kierkegaard or something. But whatever I was doing at first in college. But also I think that definitely the sort of emotional vortex I go into when I remember those every single night, every single pitch Red Sox games in high school, I think that was a state I was happy to exit.
Yeah, I just remember if I wasn't watching the Red Sox, my math homework took 1 hour. Mm-hmm. And if I watched the Red Sox, my math homework took me 3 hours.
Yeah.
It was an entire game, and it was pretty much, that was it. And it's sort of like, you know, the pleasure of watching the Red Sox combined, I don't know, the differential between the unpleasantness of math homework and the pleasure of watching the Red Sox made up for that endurance homework moment.
And we were together.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think we read the sports section the next morning.
Definitely. Dan Shaughnessy, Bob Ryan.
Yeah.
Yeah, deep in the sport. Definitely a household in which the two teenage daughters were like fighting over the sports section every morning. Like, that's...
And we didn't know we were queer.
If only someone could have told us.
Even though I started at first base like every single game of the softball games of my high school life.
Yeah, not to brag or anything.
Not to brag. And I guess one other thing to say about that era is that simultaneous to the burgeoning of my participation in Red Sox Nation was the kind of like slow but steady crumble of the mythology of American nationalism in my heart. I think there was a time growing up as like a white middle class kid in Boston that for a while as a kid, like I didn't have any perspective on what could be wrong with America. And then as I was like a preteen and teenager, I became like a lot slowly more aware of the wars that my country was waging and the violences of inside of our country and the racism of our country. And I think maybe Red Sox Nation became like a brief weaning of patriotism for me, maybe, where like it's nice to feel like you're part of something worth cheering for. And like, I don't know. I feel like those eras were back to back.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, something that with my renewed fandom in basketball, I have this sense that, I mean, it's just a profound pleasure of my life to bring takes, like basketball takes, into spaces that aren't expecting basketball takes from me. Like it's a pleasure to have an opinion about, you know, a player or a team or a game or a circumstance that maybe people aren't expecting, like a weirdo who presents in the way I present to have a take on. But something I'm realizing as I'm, you know, having deeper conversations with people who are basketball fans is like my friends who just have had this uninterrupted devotion, nationalistic devotion to a team, who can, you know, think and talk about the eras of a team or the way the team developed or, you know, the golden age or management or change in management style or even other teams or like the meta narratives of the NBA, which ultimately are very complex. And like, it's just been interesting to be a new fan-ish, like to come back to the Celtics. And, you know, I have like the Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, Rondo kind of like moment in my mind. And then this blackout of no content. And then re-emerging into being a little more in touch with what's going on with like draft picks and everything. And I'm talking to all these people who have 20 plus years of devotion and where this is one of the major stories of their life. So for me, something that I really like about watching basketball and watching sports in general is it feels like this abstract form of entertainment. It's not a movie. And if you're listening to the commentators, then it's sort of like this kind of nonfiction story about people's lives and people's game and people's bodies and stuff. But ultimately, it ends up being a sort of, there's the frame of the game and the rules of the game and the players. And then each night, the game happens within this frame and some things happen that are significant in a long-term way. Some things are contributing to one of these meta-narratives of someone's career or of this team that's being built or cresting or at a low point. And I just think it's interesting. I think it's like an interesting form.
Do you... Do you ever feel emotional?
Yes. Okay, so there was this, oh God, I wish I could remember this, because I like to think I'm like so above the kind of like nationalism of sports. I had this moment with the Red Sox, when I was in 2004, when the Red Sox reversed the curse, we all went down to the parade, to the duck boats.
I should mention that the apartment that we grew up in was like within walking distance of Fenway. And when the Rolling Stones played Fenway Park in the summertime once, like I was lying in my bed and couldn't sleep because we could hear it. So,
which is crazy. It's not that close. But anyway.
They have a good sound system. Yeah. But so the night that the Red Sox won the World Series finally, we just like walked, like with all the rest of the zombies within like 10 miles of the
10 miles
of the playing field. And a woman died that night.
Oh my god.
Climbing the fucking wall.
Wow.
She got shot in the eye with a rubber bullet.
I remember. Yeah.
Like, what the fuck, Boston?
Yeah, that's wild. Boston's crazy, man.
Anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, I just remember going down and I was like, ooh, a fun day to be like skip school, like to go to the parade, or like maybe school was canceled. But yeah, went down and yeah, I was sort of calm, cool, and collected, and then the duck boats started going by, and like there's Jason Varitek and like Manny Ramirez, and just like started crying, you know? I just was sobbing. I was like sobbing suddenly, and it was this moment of being like, it's not casual, my dude. Like this is family. This is Uncle Mike. Yeah. Uncle Mike was still around then.
What is it though, like with the tears? I remember like not understanding it over the course of my life when certain men in my life have wept over the Patriots.
Right.
And
certain men.
Yeah, no names mentioned. But the original one being the host of this podcast. Like Tess, are you ever near tears?
Oh yeah. So anyway, I like to think I'm like so not that I'm just like a casual viewer who likes to think about the sort of the abstract nature of sport. But then, yeah, when the Celtics were eliminated in the playoffs last year, by the Cavs, and it was this moment where, the Cavs advanced to the finals again with the Warriors. So boring. The Celtics being this young, exciting team. There was just this moment, it was like 2.5 minutes left. They were down like 8 or something, and someone just sunk a 2 or made a block. It was like that. It was like the turning point where there's still time on the clock, but you just know it's not going to happen. Like it would be a miracle. And yeah, I was having a bad week. I think Dad was sick, and like there was just a lot going on in life. And I burst into tears, and I was just like, this is happening. And it's the kind of thing where, and I remember this feeling from years of devastation about the Red Sox, where you're so in it in that moment, and then you kind of go to sleep and you wake up and there's that sensation that I've had other times when when something actually genuinely so bad has happened, like death or major loss. And when you wake up and you're like, oh, what is it that's so heavy in my heart? And when you remember that that a sports game was lost and that your team lost, I have this sense of shame. I have shame in me. But in that moment, there's tears on your face. And you're
probably crying about other stuff.
You're definitely crying about other stuff. And this is my question. Especially because, I know plenty of women-identified sports fans, but at the same time, I'm just like, what is it about sports that allows people to access these sensations in an abstract form? And is that healthy? Is it exciting that people are able to do that, or like, should you be in therapy if you're a sports fan, so you know when you're sublimating?
Yeah.
It means so much, and for me, an important gesture, just as like a human being who questions whether it's ethical to invest so much energy, and particularly emotional energy, in sports. I'm just like, when is it our duty to dial it back, or to just, be critical?
Yeah. I mean, that's why I'm kind of obsessed with the idea of a sports team as a nation, because that feels like a deep delusion space to me, where it's like, or it's like a microcosmic delusion to the grand delusion of America, where like, if you can buy into it, then like the dramas of this arena like make you a part of something. And like, and it's, instead of being a part of the things I'm going to speak right now to just our family, and to the like de-ethnicized whiteness of our family, at least, where like on both sides of our family, we haven't really received any like hard corroboration of where our people came from besides the North Shore
Of Mass.
And
we always said the North Shore like it's a universal indicator.
Right. Marblehead and Lynn. But Salem, where Tess was born, and our dad. But like, I don't know, it's like like dad's side of the family, there's like the kind of rumor of Irishness, but really in lieu of an ethnic identity, it was like a Bruins identity, or a like Boston identity. And that's nice. That has some roots, but I think it's also like turning away from where we might have to go if we like pursued our historical identity more.
Right. And on top of that, ultimately, the biggest problem in all of this is that ultimately a sports team's a business.
Right.
And even the vocabulary that's used to describe a sports team, or, the structure of management and ownership, like there's literally owners and players. And it's so interesting. That's why it's always so interesting when you listen to players talking to each other, or like the podcast that players have where they interview other players. And, like I listened to the CJ McCollum podcast where he's interviewing Kevin Durant, and obviously Kevin Durant's speaking to the trade to the Warriors or his move to the Warriors. And he's like, dude, it's my life. Like, it's my life. And this sense that we have the right, even because these people are public figures, or because these people are paid millions of dollars, to have an opinion about how someone's living their life. It's just such a mess in my mind.
Yeah.
Which, maybe it's time for a pivot.
I just want to insert one more thing about ethnicity, which is that I feel like Lucky, the Celtics.
Oh, right.
The Celtics
I'm dying
mascot
to be Lucky for Halloween.
Is like its own, it's like such a perfect demonstration of my ethnicity, like
This farce.
Yeah, just a cartoon, like, yeah. A cartoon.
Just a cartoon. He wears so much foundation. I was at a game a year ago, and he came to award someone a t-shirt in my row or something, and his face is caked with makeup. But he's an amazing tumbler, I will say. Skilled tumbler.
Cool. I guess, okay, I've got a pivot for us.
Okay.
On the topic of skilled tumbler, You said Steph Curry is a dancer. I'm curious. Tess and I are both artists. I write a lot of poems, and do you want to say what you do?
I write.
She writes too. And
we ran a farm together.
Yeah, we're farmers too. But I wanted to talk about art.
Okay.
So, although farming might come into this too, but
if we're lucky.
if we're lucky. So, yeah, I'm just curious about kind of like the artists of the game.
Okay.
And what inspires you as an artist watching the Celtics?
This is truly a softball question, and we can just dive right into Celtics specificity, because I don't know if anyone caught the JJ Redick interview with Kyrie, but gotta go into that to answer this question. So Kyrie, one of my favorite players, interviewed by JJ, this incredible interview on JJ Redick's podcast. And yeah, JJ's like buttering up Kyrie a little bit and talking about how like if they were on a video game, JJ would have like, or I don't even know which video game, but like one of those video games where there's like symbols next to your name or next to the character with like how many special skills they have. And JJ Redick was like, I would have like shooting. That's like my one special skill. And then, but next to your name, Kyrie, there would be like, you're a shooter and an incredible ball handler, and you're amazing at finishing. Like, he just can finish anything once he's at the hoop. Like, you just can't, he'll pull something out of nowhere. It's incredible to watch. And Kyrie's talking about how when he was little, he would practice these plays, and you practice 1,000,000 times, but if you just are sort of robotic about your game, then it'll be so abundantly apparent where you're going with the ball, or, you know, what's going to happen next, or people watch tape of you and defenders just are sort of like, we know where this is going. So Kyrie talks about being an artist, like literally Kyrie identifies as an artist, and then JJ's like, I'm a craftsman, you're an artist. That's the difference. But yeah, so Kyrie is like,
and the definition of that is that he has spontaneity.
Well, yeah, so he in the development of his game has cultivated chaos, like this principle of chaos as a dimension of his game. So and that's, I think, where the art comes in. It's like this responsiveness that's deracinated from a sense of moves or something. It's more like when he moves with the ball and moves towards the hoop, it's like, yeah, there's chaos. He stirs in a little bit of chaos, and you see that in his game. I mean, that's why he's so incredible to watch. That was why it was so fun to watch him play with LeBron, because LeBron will just like force through to the hoop, and Kyrie is like, he's like the understory of LeBron's canopy. It's incredible. And it's been so fun to see Kyrie take the helm, especially last year when Hayward was out. So fun. So fun.
Well, I'm going to take this opportunity to recommend a book I've been reading, which it just fits because of that kind of like within the confines of, say, a basketball court being totally spontaneously gorgeous, which is, I just read American Sonnets to My Past and Future Assassin by Terrence Hayes, and I think it's like 84 sonnets, so like they're all 14 lines long, but within those confines, he is soaring and crashing, and it's a really amazing book that I read in about 3 hours in the middle of the night last night. Highly recommend it.
Not having to do with sports. I'm just like trying to call
it's an
it.
Athletic.
Ooh.
It's an athletic.
Akin to, with the musculature of
It's an athletic act of poetry, and I dare say my reading of it was pretty athletic too.
Do we have any sports recs? Like, I guess Citizen by Claudia Rankine has that amazing section about Serena Williams.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of other books that have sports in them. I'd say, I would venture to say there's not a ton of overlap between the, like, poets and the...
Hey now.
It might not be true.
Anyway.
In the comments beneath this podcast, I'd love to see recommendations of some sports-loving poets.
Are there comments?
Well, I don't know. Get back to us if you know some poets who write athletically about sports.
Right, athletically about sports.
Tessie was gonna... I wanted to ask you a little bit, Tessie, about the planetary influences on the Celtics.
Totally.
Full disclosure, Tess and I are both water signs. I'm a Pisces.
I'm a Cancer.
Which might explain a little bit why you like sports more.
Why?
I don't know. Like, I'm in my own fucking world.
Yeah, Laura's in the river. And, yeah, I mean, if we're talking about the sports, we're not talking about the sports we engage in, but we're both swimmers these days, mostly. Although I ball. Yeah, but it was funny to, like, look up some birthdays and see the Celtics are weirdly Pisces heavy. And so I'm just kind of, like, just knowing Laura, the person who Laura is, which means nothing to probably most of the people who listen to this podcast, but, like...
Maybe they're poets.
I just associate Pisces with, like, being kind of dreamers. And, yeah, maybe some of the synergy on the Celtics right now comes from the fact that we've got some people co-dreaming.
Who are they?
Lucid dreaming.
Lucid dreaming on the court.
Yeah, so we've got Jason Tatum is a March Pisces. 3-3. Marcus Smart, also a Pisces. And Terry Rozier. Can I just say on the Leftist Boston Sports Cat podcast that Scary Terry is a nickname I think gotta lose it. I think that's fucked up. Felt that way since it happened. I know Terry Rozier self-identifies as Scary Terry, but I just don't like it. Smell a rat. Don't like it. New nickname.
And he's a Pisces.
Yeah. Sometimes it's scary.
To be a Pisces?
Yeah. Or just like, there's just so much there. It's so wet. It's so in motion. Definitely. Mutable. Another fun fact, Kyrie and Gordon Hayward, same birthday. Aries. March 23rd. Who knew until we looked it up?
But all their fans should shower them with love that day.
This is the most boring segment.
Yeah.
Oh, I know what we should talk about. Aaron Payne.
Okay. Yeah. You mean like dad's feelings?
Yeah, so we watched I'm forced Laura to watch a Celtics game in preparation for this. I was like, I think you have to just watch one Celtics game. This is like when we looked up. Laura was like, okay, I'll look up their birthdays while we do it. Watched 0.
Yeah, as you can tell, I'm not super prepared by that experience.
But anyway, yeah, so we were watching, and yeah, my dad said this like fucked up thing about
well, we'll let you decide. Or we won't.
No. It's fine. It rubbed me the wrong way, I'll say that.
Yeah.
Aaron Baines, Sagittarius. Wait. Oh yeah, his birthday is come and gone.
Yeah. Happy birthday, Aaron.
Happy birthday, Aaron Payne.
Basically, Dad was sitting with us and he was just hung up about Aaron's ponytail. He first kind of joking about it, and then when we were like, why are you joking about Aaron's ponytail? He was like, well, the Celtics didn't wear ponytails when I was a boy. Everyone had the same shoes, too.
And he just said it was a big, funny to see a big burly man with a ponytail. And we were like, whoa.
And so then we got into it with him, and we were like, what are you afraid of, Dad? Or what's going on? And it just seemed like this moment of, and like, basically he was like, well, he alluded to some type of imagined scene with him and his brothers when they were kids, where like if Aaron had come on stage oh my God, I'm such a nerd. If he'd come out on the court with a ponytail, the sort of guffaws and mockery that would have ensued. And number one, it was just kind of like a reminder that in closed company of men in sports, there's all kinds of misogyny that happens or can happen. But also, more interesting to me was kind of like what the phrase big burly man with a ponytail, like what that unsettled in our dad, and like maybe unsettles in other men who would react to Aaron's ponytail that way, about like the concurrence of femininity and masculinity in one body.
Which, like, it's even funny to say the concurrence of masculinity and femininity in one body when I read Aaron Bain's ponytail, it doesn't scream femininity to me.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
It's just, yeah, I don't know.
That was like one of the most startling things about Dad's reaction, was that like Tess and I didn't even see the giggle of it.
Yeah, or just the complexity even, like it
Right.
deeply registered as like a man bun.
Yeah. Solidly.
But then I was also kind of like, more power to Aaron fucking Bain for, whatever. You know what? No more power to it. He legitimately has a fascie. He has like a grown out fascie. And I'm just kind of like, if you're a white person with that haircut that like is a recognizable like haircut that tyrants wore, I'm just like, why? Mm-hmm. Like maybe just crew cut or grow it out, full pony.
Full pony.
Then you can have some queer points for like your gender presentation, but right now he just has this like offensive haircut.
Basically, no one in our family is satisfied with Aaron Bain's haircut. And that's the beginning and end of it.
Yeah, chapter complete. Wow.
Maybe we have a little more time, so it might be kind of fun to talk about our own sporting.
Yeah, I'm sure everyone wants to hear about our sporting.
Well, besides my aforementioned illustrious career in the Brookline High School softball team, ever since I became an adult, we've been farmers. And I do think that being a farmer has affected my relationship to sports. Probably the best example of me realizing that was when a childhood friend of ours who was a bunch of years younger than us, so I always thought of her as like a little girl, baby child, grew up into being a college athlete, and she was like an elite volleyball player. And whenever her team played in Providence, we would go see them play, and it was like this really inspiring moment of seeing young women like a little younger than me and being able to sit pretty close to where they were playing, like just in a small like college gymnasium, and witness the extreme strength and grace of their bodies and their just like mastery of the sport. And it was cool because like in previous eras when I was more of a sports fan, I wasn't that embodied as a person because I had started farming and I never really played sports with any kind of seriousness. But farming is its own kind of extreme physicality. It's not as cardiovascular as basketball or volleyball, but we get out there at dawn and move under the sun all day and carry a lot of weight and
People cheering on the sideline.
yeah, at least cheering on each other. And sometimes I find myself at the farmer's market at the end of the day, if I've been picking since dawn and I'm still selling food at 6:00, and the exhaustion is so profound. It's the kind of exhaustion that just sits you down on your cooler. And maybe even more transcendent than Red Sox Nation and more holistic of an identification that sports fans have is a physical one, where here we all are in a human body, and some of us are given to full expressions of the possibilities of that body, and some of us are given to be on the couch for it.
Yeah, but you're right. It is I think that's also such a pleasure that you're describing in watching Maya's volleyball games, and in general watching WNBA games for me too is and particularly women's bodies and extreme strength, just trained bodies exhibiting strength. There's such a pleasure to that.
And that's what's fun about farming with other women too, is that our bodies are only contextualized by each other.
And a sense of astonishment at the strength that we're developing together.
Yeah.
There's something so real about witnessing strength in another body. And I mean, yeah, that's why listening to Kyrie talk about being an artist or talking about developing his ball handling or his finishing and his understanding that it's about strength and it's about aesthetic. It's about, intellect, tricking someone or being smarter than someone in just a moment or a split second, or making them believe what you want them to believe. And, defenders talk about that too. I heard this amazing interview with Andre Roberson where he's talking about that, where he's talking about not getting lost in the tricks someone's playing. But yeah, absorbing those gestures
into our own bodies.
Yeah, and our minds too.
Yeah.
The limits, the potential that someone is demonstrating.
So maybe we'll say some thanks on our way out. I'd like to thank my high school JV softball coach, who
Hottie with the body.
was we don't have to objectify her, but she was super hot and also really good at softball. I loved watching her throw a softball. And I enjoy that act to this day. Anyone you want to thank?
Just Uncle Mike.
Yeah. He also taught us how to skate.
That's so true, yeah. And he scoffed at figure skates. He was like, hockey skates, gross.
Yep. Hockey skates for the girls. To this day.
Well, thanks for having us on the podcast, and just a little break from the contemporary dramas of Boston sports to talk about a lot of random bullshit that we're interested in.
Yeah.
By candlelight.
By candlelight, no
less.
less.
There's ambiance.
Yeah. With the ancestors present. All right, signing off. Good night.